Episode 7, Maine. Elara, the Medium of Maine.
Welcome, listeners, to USA, Myths and Legends, the podcast that journeys across the diverse landscapes of America, unearthing the timeless tales and whispered truths that shape our states. Today, we cast our gaze towards the rugged, beautiful coast of Maine, a place where the sea whispers secrets and the air hums with untold stories. Tonight, we delve into a legend that has intrigued and perhaps even unsettled the hearts of those who call this state home. The story of Elara, the Medium of Maine. Imagine, if you will, the late 19th century. The gas lamps cast flickering shadows on cobblestone streets, and life moved at a slower, more deliberate pace. In this era, the spiritualist movement was not merely a curiosity, but a profound balm for a world grappling with immense loss and the harsh uncertainties of daily life. The American Civil War had left deep wounds, and the burgeoning industrial age brought its own anxieties. People sought comfort, connection, a way to bridge the chasm between the living and the departed. And it was in this fertile ground of longing and belief that our story takes root, in a small, quiet coastal town, nestled against the unforgiving Atlantic. Here lived Elara, a woman unlike any other in her community. Even as a child, there was an uncommon depth to her eyes, a quiet intensity that suggested she perceived more than the average person. She was often found alone, a solitary figure walking the windswept beaches, or perched on the weathered docks, her gaze fixed on the endless horizon, as if awaiting a message carried on the sea breeze itself. She wasn't overtly strange, no. She simply carried an air of profound stillness, a silent understanding that set her apart. Then one fateful day, tragedy struck the town with the brutal force of a Maine gale. A fleet of fishing boats carrying many of the town's young men ventured out to sea. A sudden, ferocious storm descended upon them, swallowing the vessels whole. Days turned into nights. Hope dwindled, and eventually a devastating truth settled upon the community. The boats and the men aboard them would not return. Grief, thick and suffocating, draped itself over every home, every family. It was in the throes of this collective despair that Elara's unique abilities began to manifest with undeniable force. She started having visions, vivid and terrifyingly accurate dreams of the fishermen's final moments. She described the monstrous waves that crashed over the decks, the heart-wrenching splinter of wood, the desperate cries lost to the wind, and the faces of the men etched with fear, yet strangely, also with a quiet resignation. She recounted details that no one else could possibly have known: a specific pocket watch, a peculiar tattoo, a final gesture, small, intimate elements that only the closest relatives could confirm. At first, the townspeople reacted with a mixture of suspicion and outright fear. Was she cursed? Was this some form of madness? But as the accuracy of her visions continued, as she delivered messages from the deceased that brought an undeniable solace to their heartbroken loved ones, skepticism slowly gave way to a grudging acceptance, and then to a profound, desperate need. Elara became the medium, a fragile but vital bridge between the living and those who had crossed the veil. They say it was not a gift she relished. It was a heavy burden, a constant connection to the raw pain and unfulfilled longing of others. Yet she felt an unwavering obligation, a sacred calling to use her gift to alleviate suffering. Her small home became a sanctuary, a quiet haven where grief-stricken souls could seek a final word, a sign that their loved ones were at peace. Her seances were held in a dimly lit room around a plain, round table, illuminated by the soft glow of candles. People would arrive with bowed heads and heavy hearts, seeking connection, closure. And during these sessions, the atmosphere would subtly shift. A palpable presence would enter the room, a different energy. Sometimes a gentle breeze would stir the curtains, despite all windows being tightly shut. Other times, faint whispers could be heard, barely audible, yet unmistakably articulating names, terms of endearment, shared memories, echoing from the great beyond. And through Elara, the voices of the absent would resonate once more, bringing not only comfort and forgiveness, but occasionally even urgent warnings that saved others from similar fates. There was one case in particular that is still recounted in hushed tones around the town's hearths. A young woman named Sarah was inconsolable, her soul consumed by guilt and unspoken words after her fiancé was lost at sea. During a profound session with Elara, the spirit of the fiancé manifested. There were no dramatic pronouncements, no grand revelations, and just simple, heartfelt words of enduring love and profound forgiveness. He assured Sarah that she should never blame herself, that their love had been true and eternal, and that he would patiently wait for her. It is said that after that session, Sarah found a peace she had believed utterly impossible, a light re-entering her eyes that had been extinguished by grief. Elara lived a life dedicated to her extraordinary gift, providing solace to countless individuals grappling with the impenetrable mystery of death. She never sought wealth, accepting only what was truly necessary to sustain her simple life. Her door remained open to all who sought a fragile connection with the unseen world. But her story also carries a melancholic undertone. The constant exposure to the energies of the other side, the endless communion with sorrow and longing, began to take its toll. Some whispered that she grew paler, more ethereal with each passing year, as if a part of her own being was slowly, inexorably crossing the veil herself. She never married, never had children, perhaps feeling that her destiny was unique, a solitary path walked between two worlds. At the very end of her days, Elara quietly retired from her work, feeling her strength diminish. She died peacefully in her small house by the sea, enveloped by the very silence she had so often filled with the voices of the departed. Today, the town where Elara lived has transformed, but her legend persists, woven into the very fabric of its history. Some still claim to feel her presence on quiet, fog-laden nights, a sense of profound calm, a lingering connection to those who have passed beyond our sight. The story of Elara reminds us that perhaps there are dimensions to this world that our eyes cannot perceive, and that perhaps, just perhaps, every now and then, someone with a special gift can open a small, fleeting window into the grand unknown.
You know, I grew up not too far from that part of the Maine coast. My grandmother, God rest her soul, she always had a saying, "The sea gives and the sea takes, but it never truly lets go." And she'd tell us stories, not specifically about Elara, but about those who could hear. She had this old chipped porcelain doll, always kept on the mantelpiece. Nobody was allowed to touch it. One stormy night, I must have been about 10, the power went out. My grandmother was sitting by the fire, knitting, and suddenly she stopped, looked straight at that doll, and she said, clear as day, "Tell him not to worry, the anchor will hold." And then she just went back to her knitting like nothing happened. The next morning, we found out my great-uncle, who was a fisherman, had almost lost his boat that night in the storm. The anchor had jammed, but just barely held. He came back saying he felt a strange sense of calm just when things were worst, like someone was telling him it would be okay. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, about what else is out there, listening.
Indeed it does. So as the shadows lengthen and the fire crackles around you, consider Elara's enduring legacy. And join us tomorrow as USA. Myths and legends, journeys to the deep woods and rugged coastline of Maine once more, to uncover the chilling tale of the legendary Wampus cat, a creature of shadow and stealth, said to roam the wildest parts of the state. Until then, keep your ears open and your imagination alive. Good night.